would first of all request Dr. Moin-ud-Din Hashmi to please come up on the stage and recite some verses from the Holy Quran before we begin.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم صدق الله العظيم.
On behalf of Allama Iqbal Open University, I welcome all the worthy guests to the International Conference on Collective Action for Knowledge Economy with Technology. I would request the worthy Vice Chancellor of Allama Iqbal Open University, Dr. Ziaul Haq Qayyum, to please come over and welcome the guests.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Minister Shafqat Mahmood Sahab, honorable guests, international delegates, colleagues from Allama Iqbal Open University and other sister institutions, dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and a very good morning. It's indeed a pleasure to welcome you all at this international conference on collective action on knowledge economy with technology, a very important topic of 21st century, a century of knowledge economy, where we firmly believe that without the induction of technology and automation of the processes and harnessing the advantage of using the technology in different facets of life, we cannot really materialize and ensure the benefits which we really envisage at while living in the 21st century. I am a technologist by profession and firmly believe that in this technologies century, if we do not take benefit of this technology, we won't really be able to even improve the processes around us. And when it comes to the basic theme of the conference, where we'll be talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 SDGs set by UN, probably we won't be really able to meet the targets set while achieving those SDGs. This conference would be focusing on two different facets and dimensions of strategies where we could really achieve these SDGs through the use of technology during this conference. I'm looking forward to really listening to the colleagues and experts from around the world and the local experts, sharing the knowledge, sharing the thoughts, and learning from each other to evolve a strategy to meet these challenges and targets when it comes to SDGs. And this conference, it's needless to mention anyway, that will be focusing on two different dimensions where we'll be talking about obviously use of technology, improving the livelihood of the people around, in improving the livelihood of the community around. We'll be talking about the food safety, food security, improving health and hygiene. I'm sure improving the quality of education, which is an important anyway aspect of these SDGs. And more importantly, as head of the institution and as an academic, I'll be really looking forward to having long-term academic and research collaborations with the partner institutions from where the delegates are actually coming, my colleagues from China, Norway, and Indonesia, Malaysia, from other sister countries. I urge my faculty members and colleagues even really to have an interaction with these international delegates so that we could establish research collaborations and academic collaborations with these partner institutions for the good of this institution and obviously good of the country at large, so that we could improve upon the research culture. And more importantly, we should work together in areas of mutual interest to achieve the targets of this particular conference, where we will be focusing on to, as I said, different kinds of challenges we face in our country and internationally. I won't take much of the time because I'm really more interested to listen to Professor Otto as well, a renowned academic, and Professor Naveed Malik Saab. And later in the day, I'll be interested really to learn from the colleagues visiting from different international organizations. And as host and head of this institution, I would like to welcome all of the delegates at Allama Iqbal Open University. Welcome to Pakistan, and welcome at Allama Iqbal Open University as well. I'm looking forward to having a pleasant stay at Pakistan and a fruitful, wonderful discussion when it comes to different sessions of this international conference. God bless us all. Pakistan Zindabad.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Ziaul Qayyum, the worthy Vice Chancellor of Allama Iqbal Open University. Now I shall be requesting Professor Dr. Naveed Malik, who is the founding rector of the Virtual University of Pakistan, and definitely one of those people who initiated the idea of collective action for knowledge economy with technology. I would request Professor Dr. Naveed Malik Saab to please come over and share the idea with us.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mohtaram Shafqat Mahmood Sahab, Federal Minister for Education and Manpower Training. Esteemed colleagues, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It is my honor to kind of present the concept of cake tech, the idea behind this two-day conference. Pakistan faces multiple challenges in its path towards becoming a developing nation. It has a burgeoning population, a low literacy level, an underserved education sector, and they all compound the problem. Organic, conventional approaches such as establishing new universities, expanding the reach of school networks, etc., are all faced with the problem of scarce resources, an exponential increase in the population, and the time necessarily required to train the required manpower. A holistic approach to the problem, based on the efficacious use of information and communications technology, seems to offer a way forward. By using inexpensive devices, preloaded with educational software and content for all age groups, and supplemented with focused, supportive content that targets regional oblique local problems, it is possible to take a fast track towards becoming a self-sustaining knowledge economy. By targeting the household as a unit, all age groups could be addressed simultaneously, and by establishing an online network of experts that could offer solutions to specific problems, the effort could be force multiplied. The driving force behind this conference is that cake tech concept, collective action for knowledge economy using technology, a term coined by Dr. Nawaz Saab, sitting at the far side of the table, who is the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Veterinary and Animal Sciences in Lahore. The idea is to empower not just a single segment of the population, but entire communities in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, or at least the first 4 goals. Using inexpensive devices, such as tablets or smartphones, and everybody has a smartphone now. The idea is to deliver age-appropriate education and training or knowledge to all members of the household. Thus, very young children would get access to mind-expanding and enriching games. Slightly older ones would learn how to draw and read, while all age groups would be exposed to assignments and projects, leading to self-exploration and concept development. Non-formal education would be provided to school-age children, enabling them to become reading, numeracy, and critical thinking individuals. For the youth, the focus would be on skill development and entrepreneurship while providing them with a better market focus. The virtual university is already engaged in training a large number of young people in digital freelancing, enabling them to become independent workers or even a corporation of one. However, the same platform could also be used to provide training about physical vocational skills, which could then be polished by attending a practical training center. Again, the virtual university has proven this concept in the field of life sciences, where students undertake theoretical study online, while practical skills are acquired through face-to-face training provided through properly equipped laboratories. Further efficiencies of scale can be achieved by putting such labs on wheels, again a concept that has been proven at the virtual university. For adults, the concept of family management, including such important issues such as timely marriages, child nutrition, including breastfeeding, adequate gaps between births, care of expectant mothers, would be covered by specially designed content. Hygiene, access to clean water, better nutrition, sanitation concepts, etc., would also be addressed with the aim of eliminating stunted growth, reducing child mortality, and improving mother care. Given that the vast majority of people are still members of of our economy, which is agricultural in nature, it is critical to empower them through knowledge provision and skill development. Just as an example, on my phone here, I have an app called Bakhabar Kisan. Now, it's an app that gives me local market rates, etc., and it's position sensitive. So if I go to Lahore, I get Lahore Mandi rates. If I come to Islamabad, I get rates for the Rawalpindi Mandi. So it's very important. But the basic problem is if the adult person trying to use this app can't read, then how do we communicate? So literacy becomes a fundamental issue. Of course, none of this would be possible without a holistic design. Content would have to be acquired from multiple sources and even developed and adapted as necessary. A delivery platform would need to be set up, empowered with intelligent feedback capabilities for continuous improvement. The same platform would note the study habits of individuals and identify any bottlenecks requiring removal. A pool of experts would have to be engaged in the background to provide ready guidance as and when needed. And finally, training in communication skills and information technology would be required. The possibility of these interventions assuming a life of their own is immense. The numbers involved would be large enough for device manufacturers to consider establishing a plant in Pakistan. The challenge of developing effective and engaging content at multiple levels would provide fodder for the software and information technology industries, while the on-ground manpower requirement for effective implementation of the concept would allow students of existing participating institutions such as the Allama Iqbal Open University or the virtual university to undertake valuable social services as part of their regular studies. All in all, it promises to be a win-win situation for all involved, especially the people of Pakistan. However, before undertaking any such exercise, it is critically important to internalize the success stories from around the globe, especially the enormous strides in poverty reduction that China has made in our part of the world. This two-day conference is meant to provide a platform for knowledge exchange so that an effective solution to our challenges could be worked out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Naveed A. Malik. Now we shall move on towards our first keynote speech. We have Professor Otto Evienth with us from Norway. He is currently the chairman of the board of directors of Mayer Nostrum Company, which is established to build and manage networks for enhancement of change processes. Mr. Otto is going to share with us his keynote speech titled as Mobilizing Cross-National and Professional Resources for Cake Tech. Cake Tech is a very interesting name that has been given to this conference for Cake Tech outreach in the remote areas. I would request Professor Otto to please come over and share with us his keynote speech.
Honorable Minister, hosts, colleagues. I'm saying colleagues because my main objective of being here is to recruit you all to be colleagues in cake when we're leaving. 20 years back, I left the position as Vice President Business Development for Telenor, having worked with their technologies, amongst others establishing the platform for communication between Pakistan and their diaspora in the rest of the world. And I started to take an interest in the usage of information and communication for development. Technology is good, but we need to know about information and communication as well. I think that is a lacking profession. We are focusing too much on technology, I'm sorry to say that, and too little on communication and information that we are using that technology for. So, the title of this introduction is reflecting that the key objective of our international cross-professional team is to contribute to sustainable resource management in remote communities in Pakistan. The international team consists of people with practical experiences from community development initiatives and implementation of interventions of importance to targeted societies in these countries. Since I left Telenor, I've been working on issues like these with the people in, of course, Sri Lanka, where I lived, in Malaysia. I've been living in China, working with some of the Chinese people here. I've been having the fortune to working in Indonesia and Brunei with Baron Razak, who's here. And all these people have left me with their insight, and I have been summoning them to share their insight with you here. So let me briefly now introduce you to these people. Unfortunately, one of them is not here, but we have a very good representative. But let me start off with Professor Yingye Wang from China Academy of Sciences. You should be very interested in him. He has been the head of the planning authority in China for the planning of the CPEC. I've been working with him for quite some time. He has been the man behind the poverty alleviation program in China. Unfortunately, he's not here, but he has been leaving us with an extensive presentation. And I don't know, but whether we would have a voice transfer from China. But anyway, he has committed to work with us to be part of future meetings. One of the things that I learned from Yingye Wang was that centralistic systems like they had in China, and which they have in most countries, won't work any longer if they should be good. So he started to develop analytical tools to find out which are the challenges and opportunities of each single community, and to design solutions for them specifically to find ways for sustainable development. Another friend of mine, Professor Wang Rongwei from China, he did the second part of it. He started designing courses which is fitting for that, and he's still doing that with UNESCO. I'll come back to that. But anyway, so Yingye Wang is one of us. He's a cake man. We have Wang Ping. She is the chairman of China Next Generation Education Foundation. She is, this organization is dealing with the scenarios for education and competence building in China for the years to come. A very important part of the Chinese 5-year plans. She couldn't come, she was ill, so her assistant, Nathalie Chinming, is here in her place and will be presenting her presentations. Wang Ping has been more than anything looking into issues connected with the demographics of China. What's happening with the demographics? What is how will the population look within the next 15 to 20 years? Wang Ping has also committed to work together with us. She has been committing to work with Huang, Malik, and myself when it comes to a discussion on a common repository for educational material, which we could use cross-border, and which will help us all to provide relevant material in a cheap manner. Then Professor Rongwai has been working for a number of years with Beijing Normal University. I had the opportunity to work with him to establish preschools in China and to establish new ways of training preschool teachers in the developing communities in China. It worked quite well. We had to break some standards, but it worked. We had active solutions coming up in strong collaboration with All China Women, which is a rather powerful Chinese organization with 60 million women as their members, and formerly also headed by the same Wang Ping. Huang and I, we have been discussing on issues that we could do together, and I'm quite convinced that there will be some very interesting discussions with people from the universities. Due to his dual positions, he has been he's the chairing of the UNESCO INRULed organization, which is set up by UNESCO to create training standards for agricultural communities. On top of that, he is heading up the unit for advanced educational technologies at the university. Definitely areas where we could collaborate, find new solutions. Then one of my colleagues in Mare Nostrum, Asim Kiani, we have for some years been working on matchmaking programs for technology transfer between Pakistan and elsewhere. The way we're doing it, Asim will be presenting you with during the workshops, and we will be more than happy to work with you in an extensive manner to identify very clear and concise needs for technology, and we will try to find partners from other parts of the world who would like to work more, towards Pakistan. I am maintaining, and I'm very clear on that, one of the biggest assets you have in Pakistan is that you have unsaturated markets. There are lots of people who would like to get in there, but they don't know how to. If we could work with the universities, with people with the necessary financial cloth and structured programs, there is definitely opportunities to bring technologies in, and Asim will present some of them. One issue that we have been working quite a bit on, and it was a core issue connected with the first cake program in Lahore some months back, that is nutrition. And the importance of nutrition for general health, but also for cognitive health, for the ability to learn amongst children. So we have already started a program between us in Mare Nostrum and UVAS to work on on food additives, which will make the local staple foods, balanced food and functional foods for children in the outskirts. An item that will be looked into in more detail during the workshops, and where there are also openings for extension of the program with others. Then, last but not at all least, in Norway we've been very lucky to borrow a Pakistani called Azim Qureshi. I don't think that you will have him back. He is heading up a program in Norway called the System Dynamics, and it's really a methodology that I've been looking for years. And so what he's doing is then to make simulation models for programs to understand, in this case here, stunting. What is the cost of stunting? What is the value of dealing with stunting? Who are the professions that we need to deal with or to collaborate to handle stunting? I am myself, and I hope you will be, curious to listen to him and to discuss with him during the workshop their methodologies. And I hope then that this is a team which could partly present you with ideas, and who will have ideas and expertise from your side, because the job that we are setting out to do now is a job for collective action. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Otto. I'm pretty sure that as Professor Otto was telling us about, if you go through the program book, you would also find the details about every session and all the speakers. And this is definitely going to be a very cohesive and coherent kind of discussion in the further 2 days. We are lucky to have the HEC representative, Mr. Raza Bhatti, with us. Thank you, sir, for being here. And I request the minister, Mr. Shafqat Mahmood, the Federal Minister for Education and Professional Training, to please inaugurate the conference officially.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Professor Ziaul Qayyum, Vice Chancellor, Allama Iqbal Open University, Professor Abbas Chaudhry, Professor Naveed Malik, Mr. Otto I hope I pronounced the name correctly, Evienth. Ladies and gentlemen, foreign delegates, especially to our foreign delegates, welcome to Pakistan. And I hope you have an enjoyable stay. It's a bit rainy, but it'll get better. And we need the rain, so we are welcoming it. I don't know what formal inauguration of the conference means, but I declare the conference open. Since this is my first visit to Allama Iqbal Open University since Professor Ziaul Qayyum took over, so I welcome him to the university, and I'm very sure that under his leadership, the Allama Iqbal University will move forward, take great strides, and become the center of excellence that we want it to become. So congratulations to you, and congratulations for holding this event. Technology is something, and this is not an expert talking to you, but clearly the future lies in technology. And so many of the things that we have been thinking about, and our government took over about 6 months ago. And in the last 6 months, where I am having a crash course in issues that face education, it is quite obvious that without the input or help of technology, countries particularly like ours, which have many serious challenges of education, will not be able to move forward. And let me briefly talk about some of the challenges. We have a slightly disputed figure, but we have a figure of 58% literacy, which we want to take to, in the next 3-4 years, at least to 70%. So wanting to take a figure of 58% to 70% means our calculation is that we need to train 14 million or educate 14 million more people in 4 years. Now you can imagine that if you have to teach 14 million people in 4 years, what kind of a challenge that is. And most of these people are not children, although there are children, and I'm going to be talking about them a little bit. Most of these people are adults. So how do you teach adults, make them literate? So then there is one aspect of it is the supply side. You need teachers, you need facilities, you need a management system which is going to create the infrastructure and so on and so forth. But I feel the management system or the infrastructure or the supply side is not so difficult. It's not easy. For example, if you have to teach this many people that I have talked about, you may need something like 700,000 literacy centers. So if you have to establish 700,000 literacy centers, that means you would need 21 lakh, 2 million and above teachers. So where do we get teachers of this kind? So we've been thinking of various things like getting all graduate students to come and contribute and teach adults as part of their coursework, as a kind of national service. So really, supply side, there are at least visible solutions on the supply side. The real challenge is on the demand side. That how do you get adults to come and be ready to be educated in an accelerated learning program. We've also devised content of accelerated learning, which is about 45 days of learning, of teaching, which gives basic literacy. But the question is, how do you attract them to a literacy center, or at least create a demand for them to be literate? And that is where technology really comes in. The mobile phone platform has created a kind of a demand among those who are not literate. And the demand has created by things like messaging. Not being able to message is a hindrance to people who are not educated. So many people who are otherwise illiterate have learned some rudimentary ways of messaging. Our challenge is, and I hope this conference will address in part some of those challenges. Our challenge is that how do we create content which can be delivered through the mobile phone application, which is of relevance to the person who is holding a mobile phone in hand. And I'm particularly talking about mobile phone because in Pakistan, the estimation is that we have 15 crores. That is 150 million people who have mobile phones. Now let's say that this figure is exaggerated and let's half it. So even if we have 70 million people who have a mobile phone, that's a lot of people. And if half of them are not educated, then you have a chance to use this platform to reach them. So our challenge is, how do we reach them through these platforms? Because the conventional methodology is too difficult and too complicated. Because you have to create the teachers, you have to create literacy centers, you have to, especially for women literacy, how do you approach women who are illiterate? So there are multiple challenges. Similar challenges in a way in our schools education, which is one, we have a lot of out-of-school children. We have almost, estimations vary, but 20 million children who are not in school. So if there are 20 million children who are not in school, you get them into school, but then we have various capacity problems between rural areas and urban areas, depressed areas and well-off areas, English medium schools, Urdu medium schools, madrasa schools. So we have a wide spectrum of teaching streams, etc., etc. So how do you fill up these capacity gaps? How are you able to deliver a quality content to children who are in a rural area, for example? So the only way you can deliver a quality content to children in rural areas is either you do some massive and very successful teacher training program, which in a short span is not easy, or you use technology. That you create smart classrooms, you use tablets, you use all kinds of different technologies which are available, so that a child who is in a rural area gets the same or relatively the same content which a child in an urban area is getting. So that is another kind of challenge that we have to think of, how do we use technology to reach or to overcome this capacity gap. Of course, there are other applications of technology which are already being tried, like for example, ensuring attendance of teachers through various kinds of technologies, and so that is happening. But we need to focus on different areas and see how can we use technology to bridge the gaps that we have. And I think that is where Allama Iqbal Open University, Virtual University, all the wonderfully talented people who are in this room, and many talented people who are not in this room, will put their heads together and come up. I'm a politician, I'm not an educationist, so come and tell us, what are the ways forward? How do you use technology to move forward? And then, of course, Professor Otto said that technology is one aspect of it. It's like the hardware, but then the real challenge is what kind of software, what kind of content, how do you communicate, what kind of information is supplied. So that is another aspect of configuring content to new technologies. For example, for children, if game playing and learning can somehow be combined, we have found in some research that was done in Pakistan, that the learning levels are phenomenal, because the children have, let's say, a tablet in their hand, and there is an element of game playing with education. So that is a challenge for creating the right kind of content, a content that is interesting, a content that engages the child. So for educationists, and forgive my sort of laying out an agenda, but I think for educationists, the agenda is very clear, that you have to look at your own situation, analyze it, look at the capacity gaps, look at where we are weak, come up with technological solutions, come up with the right kind of content, and come up with answers which allows us to leapfrog the gaps that we have right now, because the conventional methodology will take us forever. So that is where we hope that all of you in the next 3 days would be coming up with very interesting solutions. I will be looking forward to a report that comes after this conference, and we will study it carefully, and I promise you that we are as keen as all of you are, and we would do our very best to implement it. So I wish you all the best, and hope that you, our foreign guests, have an enjoyable stay in Pakistan, and all of you have a very productive conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the Federal Minister for Education and Professional Training. Now we shall have the honor of presenting the souvenir to the Minister. I would request the worthy Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Ziaul Qayyum, worthy Vice Chancellor of Allama Iqbal Open University, and the Rector of Virtual University, Mr. Muhammad Abbas Chaudhry, to please, Dr. Muhammad Abbas Chaudhry, to please come at the front and present the souvenir of conference to the Minister.